I'm going to be comparing the Muppets franchise to the Hellraiser franchise. Obviously, these two are very different from each other. It's two different genres, two different tones, two different audiences. Obviously, something like the Muppets is a lot more family friendly than Hellraiser, which is clearly an adult franchise or British horror films. Now, when you look at the highest Rotten Tomatoes score for each franchise, in the case of Muppets, the highest score is a 95% for the 2011 Muppets movie, which I actually watched for the first time not too long ago. With Hellraiser, ooh, yikes, there's 11 movies and only two of them are even fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. And even then, the scores are not fantastic. The highest score is only a 70% for the first movie, which is obviously, yeah, good score, but it's not a great one. It's not actually certified fresh. It's fresh by 10%. When you look at the lowest score for each franchise, ooh, yikes. You got three Hellraiser movies that have a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, admittedly, with at least one of these movies, there's not very many reviews counted, like 5 reviews. So you want to keep that in mind, but still not a good sign. When you look at the Muppets franchise, out of the 10 movies I've seen, that's basically all the movies. You have The Muppets Haunted Mansion, which isn't actually a movie, it's a special on Disney Plus. Then you have another thing that's technically a television special, even though it's an hour 20 minutes long. So for me, I think that counts as a movie. But out of the 10 movies that I'm including in this video, all of them are fresh except for one of them. That's a really good sign. The lowest score is of 30% for the Muppet Wizard of Oz. So Muppet wins again. Then we look at average score. This is not even close. Muppets has an average of 75. Hellraiser only an average of 28. And then we look at gap between lowest and highest score. You have a gap of 65 in the case of Muppets. With Hellraiser, you have a gap of 70. So by just a little bit, Muppet wins again. It's already won every round, and this one's not hard for me whatsoever. It's incredibly easy. Yeah, I definitely prefer the Muppets franchise. First of all, because this franchise is nostalgic for me. I remember back when me and my parents lived in New York, we actually had both a DVD and VHS player. We used both of them. We actually had VHS tapes, and we actually had a VHS tape of the Muppet movie, the first one of these films. So not only did I watch the Muppet movie quite a good amount of times, me and my dad watched it together. I remember playing the opening scene just to sing along to that song Rainbow Connection from Kermit the Frog. I think the songs here are really memorable as well as quite catchy. Between Rainbow Connection, Can You Picture That from Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, moving right along from Fozzie the Bear and Kermit. I Hope That Something Better Comes Along from Rolf the Dog. And then the ending song, they really stand out to me. I also remember the first time I watched the Muppet Christmas Carol was years ago. I can't even remember when exactly it is that I watched this movie for the first time. It was definitely longer than 5 years ago, I would say. And I think this is a fantastic version of the Christmas Carol. Michael Caine does a great job playing Ebenezer Scrooge. But beyond the fact that the Muppets franchise is nostalgic for me, honestly, inherently, Muppets is something I just like more. It's something I enjoy more. Thus, I would definitely say I prefer it over Hellraiser because it's just more my thing. We look at my personal taste and preferences. I just like the Muppet characters. I think they're fun to spend time with. And thus, I've enjoyed all the movies I have seen. I mean, they're not all exactly the same as each other quality wise, but still, and I had a good time with all these movies. Now I actually have seen 10 Muppet movies. Prior to just the past few months, I had only seen 2 Muppet movies, just the original Muppet movie and Muppet Christmas Carol. And then over the last month, I've been catching up on the Muppets because I was like, oh yeah, this is actually a franchise that I've known about for a long time. It's nostalgic for me, but I want to actually get caught up on the franchise, and now I'm much closer to being caught up. I still want to watch Muppets Haunted Mansion along with the hour 20-minute television special, but I watched a lot more Muppets than I had 2 months ago, 3 months ago. When it comes to horror in general, I certainly have seen more horror films now compared to the amount I had seen 5, 6, 7 years ago. Now I actually have seen The Quiet Place movies, the Zombieland movies, Omen, The Exorcist, Jaws, Goosebumps, Five Nights at Freddy's, Megan, but I still haven't seen a lot of horror slashers specifically. I mean, I did watch the movie Freaky that came out in 2020, which is basically Freaky Friday as a slasher, because that one is tied to the Freaky Friday franchise because you have the body swap going on. That's something I enjoy more because I like the Freaky Friday franchise. So I think that movie, Freaky, is a more accessible version of a slasher that's going to appeal to more people. Whereas other slashers are inherently more niche, they appeal to a smaller audience rather than the broadest audience possible. I think that's the case with Hellraiser. I think it is inherently just more of a niche franchise that certain people are going to like a lot, but others are not going to, because it's just not going to be for them. But I would say with the Muppets franchise, what I find interesting is that you have Muppet Wizard of Oz, Muppet Treasure Island, the Muppet Christmas Carol, which are all part of a franchise. And then Very Merry Muppet Christmas is basically Muppets' version of It's a Wonderful Life. You have the same idea in there about a main character who wishes he had never been born because things are going so badly. But then an angel shows him what would be if our main character wasn't around, and thus our main character develops an appreciation for his life. Thus, he wishes to be sent back to his normal life. When he gets back, he's super happy. That's what happens at the end of It's a Wonderful Life. I definitely prefer Muppets franchise. That'll wrap things up for this video.